Good evening again, friends. It's a joy to share with you on this topic of giving others their due. As I thought about this today, I think the greatest due should be given to God. Because what can we do without God's power, God's love, God's joy and peace flowing to us, enlivening us? We couldn't breathe, we couldn't walk, we couldn't talk, we couldn't move, we couldn't do anything without God. And so first, I think if we're thinking to give others their due, first of all should be Divine Mother, it should be God. If we think of our meditation practices, I've thought about this often. Who's really meditating? And how am I going to go into deep experiences of meditation without God's grace? The techniques help us to open ourselves up, but the grace is from God. We don't create that. I'm not going to be able to create the light at the spiritual eye or the sound of Om or the vibration of God within my heart. That all is given from the divine. It's given from God. And I was thinking just to have a spiritual path, to have a guru, to have a spiritual guide, to be able to serve, to be able to have communities to go to live in, centers, all the books that we have, the music, the guidance we've had from Swami Kriyanandaji, all the chants, all the programs now that we have. Is such a blessing. We've been given a beautiful life in God, and these gifts have come from Him. I'm grateful every moment for this life in the divine, and I thought about what would my life be without Master, without the gurus, without Swamiji in my life, and all of the wonderful gifts that we have. And so let us first bow again and again to the great ones, because they have given us this life in God. And for more than anyone, we should bow to them and give them our love and devotion. Secondly, I was thinking of, in giving others their due, we have to think of specifically the Guru, because the Guru is the one who is the bridge between us and the divine. And the Guru opens the channel so that we can, when you think about that we can have the experience of God, when you think about the Guru, I think about, well, what does the Guru really give to the disciple? The Guru gives, of course, guidance, of course, teachings, of course he gives techniques. What else does the Guru give? The Guru gives magnetism, his own magnetism. Guru gives his own energy. He gives his uplifted consciousness. He gives his consciousness. That's huge. He gives his realization of God to the disciple. As much as the disciple is open, he gives his inner experience of the divine, of the inner life, of the kingdom of God. The Guru is giving to the open disciple. He gives what else? His good karma. And Master said, I'll give you lots of my good karma so that you can get through. And so as we think of the Guru, our life is in God is only because God is coming through the Guru to us. I have thought about Rajasi Janakananda with Master, and Rajasi would come and visit Master. They would hold hands and walk in the lawn, along the lawn there at Encinitas, and would sit and go into samadhi and in an ecstatic state. And Rajasi, Master told two of his very close disciples, who were both very wealthy, to come as much as you can. And one never hardly came, and one always came. Rajasi was the one who always came. And because he came, and because he attuned to his Guru, And because he was open, because of the love that was there, because of what he gave to Master, he opened up even more, gave of his devotion, of his open heart, of his willingness, of his steadfastness, of his commitment to the path and the teachings, of whatever Guruji needed, he gave. And he was giving Master his due, you could say, through all of those things. And because of that, Master was able to work with him. He was able to come into his heart and open him up and give him divine experiences. Now, of course, these things were from past lives. They were very close in other lifetimes. And also with Swamiji, Swamiji was just very young, 22. He had just come onto the path, Swami Kriyanandaji. Master said, Swamiji tells about this in the path, that Guruji didn't care how young he was, Swamiji was, how new he was, how inexperienced he was. What he cared about, is a very important point, was the bond from other lifetimes that Master had with Swamiji. And that means that the opening that he had, the ability to work through him, the ability that Swamiji had to give to his Guru, to open to his Guru, to serve his Guru. And Master was able, it's both ways. Master was able to work through him and speak through him, teach through him. There's a beautiful story of when Swamiji, so many wonderful stories in the New Path. I hope you have read that. But Swamiji Master asked him if he would, through another disciple, if he would go on his behalf and give the Sunday satsang talk. And Swamiji was new, he hadn't been there that long, and Master couldn't go, so he asked him to go. And Swamiji didn't know what to think. He hadn't been to that particular, Master hadn't been to that particular mandir or church for some time, and all the disciples were expecting him to come. So, but Swamiji said yes, and he went, and it's a wonderful story because everybody was there waiting for Yoganandaji, and here's Swamiji, and the curtains part, and here he is there, and he spoke as well as he could. But the wonderful thing, and he also had to give a Kriya initiation afterwards to one person. He had never done that either. But I meditate on the stories because Master was able to work through his open disciple. Because Swamiji was so open, Rajasi was so open, Sister Gyanamata was so open, Dr. Lewis, they were so open in their giving of their love, giving of their devotion, giving of their desire to help. There probably were many other people who could have maybe they spoke better, maybe they could have organized better, whatever, but they weren't open. And so Master used and uses those channels that are open, where the blocks are melting, at least if they're not melted, and he's able to work through those who are giving the due to their Guru every day. And there's another very sweet story of Swamiji when Master asked him to shake hands with the congregation members as they came out of the talk that Master had given on Sunday. And there must have been at least 150, 200 or more people there. And so Swamiji, he stood at the door and waited for people to come out, and he shook the first person's hand, and then the second and the third, and he kept shaking the hands, and then, he sort of started getting tired of shaking hands. And then by the end he asked Master, he said, please don't give me this job again because I just feel so tired now. And Master said, that's because you were thinking of yourself. Think of God's energy flowing through you. And as you do that, you will feel even more energy. So Swamiji did this again. I don't know how soon again he did it. But after that time, he did feel uplifted. He felt energy. He felt he was, more energized because he felt God's power. He was giving the due to God. God is the doer. And as we see everything that we do, we feel that his power is flowing through us. There was a disciple, his name was Bernard, and this is also in the New Path, and he had double curvature of the spine. He had many different ailments, and to get up in the mornings, he had to roll, on the bed several times and then kind of roll onto the floor because he couldn't walk that well. And then he was able to push himself up. And Master gave him, I just heard this story yesterday in one of the talks by Swamiji, he gave him the job of driving a tractor. He also gave him the job of climbing up ladders to do various things. Now what's interesting about this is that the disciple, Bernard, because he was open and he saw God and Guru working through him, at the beginning he was able to do these things. And he was doing just fine. And besides doing fine, he was getting stronger. He was getting healthier. His body was improving. And then at a certain point, someone said, well, why are you doing that? Aren't you ill? And he thought, well, I guess I don't feel that well. He started thinking of himself again. And this is what people do. And so then he told Master, please, I don't want to drive the tractor. I don't want to do these jobs anymore. Please allow me to not do them. And Master said, all right. Now what happened? The man got worse. He got bedridden, and then he left the path. So this is a very interesting story because as he was attuning himself, opening himself, giving his energy, what little he had, even if you have half a cup, give that and let the Guru, let God fill it. See them as working through you. As he was doing that, he was completely fine. When he stopped doing that, he got out of tune. And he got ill. And he got out so much out of tune that he left his Guru. And so these are important things to remember, especially thinking of how to serve. We should see that God can do anything through us. And I know it's a feeling that, I have this feeling various times myself, how am I going to be able to do such and such a project? Whatever it is, how am I going to be able to do this? How can I do that? Well, we all have those feelings, but maybe we can't do them. But God and Guru, if we open ourselves to them, they can work through us. And Swamiji told of stories of how when Master showed him or had him do several of the yoga postures, and he said whenever Master was there, and he said, Walter, you demonstrate this pose or that pose, he was able to do it perfectly. Poses that he wasn't able to do otherwise, Master told him to do it, he was able to do it. Because the grace and the blessings of God and Guru were flowing into him. He was able to remember certain words. Master taught him some, I think it was it was Bengali, some words that 10 years later, when Swamiji came to India, he still had remembered those words in Bengali. And he said Master gave him that blessing of remembering that. And so much comes through the power of that energy and magnetism of God and the Guru. And I'm speaking particularly now of the Guru's energy flowing through the open door of a disciple's heart and disciple's willingness. And there's another story I told recently that this isn't really, it's an incredible story that Master Yoganandaji was coming over on a ship from India to America in 1920. And he didn't know English very well at all. But everyone saw, he was a Swami and he was traveling with them, and it took at least a couple of months for them to arrive. someone asked, well, can you give a lecture on, what you teach? And Master, he said, yes, I can. And I mean, he had to give it to him. He was courageous. He just said yes right off, not knowing that, this talk was going to be given in English, and knowing that he didn't know much English at all. And he had never lectured in English. But he said, okay, I will do it. And so he's there. Before the talk, he tries to figure out what to say, and he said he just couldn't figure it out in his mind. So he called on his guru. So he appears at wherever this talk was going to be, and there were many people there, and he can't say anything in English. And I think several minutes, I think it was like 10 minutes, 5 or 10 minutes passed by, and he doesn't know what to say. He can't even construct a sentence. And then the people who were there, they saw his predicament, and they began to laugh. And Master, he didn't think it was funny at all. You can imagine being in that situation. So in his mind, he was calling to his guru, Swami Sri Teswarji, to help him, to speak through him, to help him in this situation. And he could hear the voice of Swami Sri Teswarji saying, you can speak! What a beautiful story. And Master began to speak. And what the audience said was perfect English. A beautiful talk. And afterwards, he said he didn't even know what he said. It was a miracle, let's face it. He was able to deliver that speech. I think it was 40 minutes or 45 minutes or something like that. And people said, that was a wonderful talk. He didn't know what had happened. But because he was in tune and he saw God and his guru as serving, working, thinking, talking, doing everything through him, which is how we should attune ourselves, then that happened. And then he came to America and he began to speak all over. And many crowds came to him. But it was from his God, through his guru, that worked through him, that was able to speak, to draw the people who came, everything that happened in Master's life. Get the places, Encinitas, Mount Washington, all the various centers that he started, all the people who came. It was all from the magnet of God's power flowing through him. And Swamiji as well has said that everything that has happened in my life has come because of the blessings of the Guru, of Master through me. All the books that I've written, the music that Swamiji wrote, over 400 pieces, he attributed everything that it came because God is the doer. God worked through me. And I remember a time when Swamiji was, he wanted, most of you have seen the Essence of the Bhagavad Gita book, Master's commentaries on the Gita that Swamiji beautifully, I don't think you can get one better, beautifully put together. And I was there for the time when he wrote on the commentaries, edited that. And it was here in Gurgaon at Swamiji's house, Guru Kripa. And it took him about 2 months. He had visitors during that time. He had a very busy schedule, but he also wrote that book. And in the very beginning, Swamiji had, I'll show you so that you can get an idea, he had a pamphlet about this size that was called Keys to the Bhagavad Gita. And he said that was what he was going to put out. He was going to edit that and put that Keys to the Bhagavad Gita pamphlet out. He said, because this is what I think I'm able to do now. And that was one day. And I haven't, maybe 1 or 2 pamphlets. I haven't seen many pamphlets of Swamiji. He's written some of the greatest books I think that were ever put out. But so he said that one day, and then the next day we all came over and to see what he had done and how much he had worked on it. And he was saying, just leave me be, because now I'm writing a book. I feel Master is writing this book on Gita through me. And he began to write, and I can't remember how many pages it is, but if you have the book, you can look for yourselves. But every day he said, Master's writing this through me. It's coming through me from my guru. And as you probably know, from Master said that Beda Vyasa wrote it through him. He said, I was in attunement with Beda Vyasa, and he wrote that through me. Because Swamiji had worked with Master's commentaries at 29 Palms on the Bhagavad Gita. And then Swamiji was saying, Master is writing it through me. And it was just flowing through him. It took him 2 months to complete that. I think is the greatest work that he was able to put out. And it was interesting because at that time at his house, we were there practically every day because he was writing, and he'd have, parts of parts of the book for people to read, and up till late at night, 11 or 12 o'clock, and he was so enthusiastic. He would say, oh, you must read this, and he said, you look at your watch, it was like 11:45, and he said, you can't leave now, you have to read this, and he'd be writing seemingly through the night sometimes. And then I remember one time I left there, and I went down the stairs, and it was very late, and I just had finished reading a part of what Swamiji wrote, and I went down the stairs, and I passed the kitchen, I was going out the door. And as I passed the kitchen, I just could feel that there's a presence there. It was completely dark downstairs, and maybe just a little light so I could get out, and I just felt Master was there. And it was such a deep feeling. I can't really describe it to you. But later, I said to Swamiji, is he here with you as you write this? I said, of course he's here. And whatever form he was in, I don't know, but I had never felt that presence so strongly there. And he was working through Swamiji. So these are very beautiful times and beautiful moments, and we have to remember that God and Guru, if we can give them their due, they can work, meaning, that means to me, I open myself. I'm here for you. You can use me as a channel. I know everything comes from you. Who am I to give a talk or chant or sing in the choir or do the yoga postures or travel or whatever? I have nothing. But with you, I have everything. And that's what it means to always remember God. And I recall one time when I was going through a difficult time in my life, and I asked Swamiji, I said, I'm trying to get through this, and I'm writing. Well, I wasn't writing. I said, I'm giving talks, I'm reading the lessons, I'm doing the techniques, I'm serving, I'm teaching, I'm doing everything I can, I'm praying. And I said, I'm just not getting anywhere. And he said, oh, don't worry, everything will be fine. And I'll never forget, the next day I felt completely different. And I went to Swamiji and I said, I feel so different now. He just said, that's good. And I realized no matter what I did, I just couldn't break through. I had to have God's help. I had to have Guruji's help. I had to know that theirs was the power that was going to make the change. And so, and Master said to Swamiji, don't forget where your power comes from. He told Rajasi Janakananda, don't forget where your power comes from. And Rajasi said, no, Master, I won't forget. I know it comes from you. And that we have to recognize that is the strength. When Master told Swamiji that he had a great work to do through him, and Rajasi told Swamiji, and he will give you the strength. Through you, he'll give you the strength to do it. And so those two parts of recognizing God and Guru and recognizing others, I think we need to see Goddess in them. as serving in them, and see them as our Guru Bhais, our brothers and sisters, and to not try to pull people down, to be encouraging, be loving, as this affirmation that we gave. Congratulate people, thank people, put out an aura of energy. If they've done something, go up and say, that was wonderful. Thank you for organizing the program, or for singing, or whatever it is, to be gracious, and always think, how can I encourage people, rather than, oh, I didn't like that, oh, did you see that, oh, he didn't sing on the right note, or whatever. But to think, I remember times when I was in a choir in Italy, and there were many times we were out of tune many times, I can say that, but it got better and better, I must say. But many times Swamiji would be there, and I would go, oh God, this is really off. And he would afterwards, we'd just, pranam, and he would say, well, you looked like angels. That's what it was wonderful. He never said anything about the music. You looked like angels. He just was always wanting to help us to grow and feel confident, instead of that note was wrong, that note was wrong, that note was wrong. And that's how we should be with each other. The person has practiced at least, so give the credit as best as you can to those. Also, I was thinking not to give, if you're in a group situation or whatever, always think of the other people. It's so much sweeter to include the others. I agree with what you said. Oh, as this person said, just feel the masters are all in those people. As this person said, why don't we do it that way? That's a good idea, instead of, that was my idea. You remember I said that idea last week? You don't remember, that was my idea. But just to think in a flow, that we're all in together, serving God, serving Guru, and let it flow through you. And finally, flow through you to others, and give them as much credit, more credit, instead of, I'm the one who's done it all. Who cares? Give it to them, and they will appreciate it. They will grow from that. And in taking credit, the other part of this whole thought was, when people give you credit, just be careful. Don't let it go to your head. And what I heard Swamiji say many times when we'd go up to him afterwards and say, thank you for that wonderful talk. It was like a mantra. He always said, God is the doer. Or, I felt Master's presence there too. Or something. He never went, yes, I am the one who gave a great talk. Just let it flow. Feel, if you're part of a group, that you can say things like, oh, we all contributed, or wasn't it lovely that we were able to do this together? Many hands make a miracle. Always be careful that you don't pull that energy to yourself. And finally, allow people to give to you as well your due. And not just thoughts or whatever, congratulations or whatever, but I've noticed, especially here in India, I think, I've been here almost 11 years now, but people are very kind, they're very gracious, very loving, and very generous. And people want to, give on one level or another, or, bring a gift or something. And you have to allow people. I remember once in Italy that there was a big group of us that went out with Swamiji, and one man he wanted to take everybody at the ashram. There must have been 25 people, everybody out, and we felt kind of uncomfortable, and Swamiji said, just allow him. This is his seva. Give him the joy of doing that. And so we also have to allow people to give. We can't let it stop here. And accept with gratitude that God is serving God, God is helping God. And I remember something so beautiful that it really touched me, that it was this time of year at Thanksgiving, which is huge, one of the biggest holidays in America, giving thanks to God for everything. and it's in November, end of November. And Jayaji and I were down in Mumbai. We were giving a satsang, various programs that weekend, but we were giving a satsang at one of the members' homes at that time. And this was some years back, and I was really kind of missing Thanksgiving. And here we were, and nobody. It was Thanksgiving Day, and we didn't do anything for Thanksgiving, and not many people knew about Thanksgiving. And so here we were at the satsang, and so we talked a little bit about what it meant, and just so people knew. And afterwards, one friend, he was driving us. He was driving us back to wherever we were staying, a home or a hotel, I don't remember. And he opened the car door and he got us in the car. And my other friend Ramani was there. She's there. She just came to India for a little while. She reminded me of this story today. And it was about 9:30 at night. And he had such a sweet face. I'll never forget. He looked at us, the three of us, and he said, and we thought we were just going on home. And he said, "Now we go out for Thanksgiving dinner." And I thought, how kind, how sweet. And we go out to a Chinese restaurant for Thanksgiving dinner, which was just perfect. And we had our Thanksgiving dinner about 11:30 at night. But I was so touched by that. And of course we went, because it was such a joy for him to give. And of course we loved being together. And finally I'll tell one last story that is, I think it's one of the most amazing things I'd ever seen Swamiji do. That it was years back, and Swamiji was giving a satsang, and he said, at a part of the satsang, he said, I think it was near the end, he said, "I have been able, by God's grace, to give you all what Master allows me to give, and he said, I'm happy to do that, and I will continue to do that. But he said, but you all have to give back. You can't just receive." And he said, "I would like each one of you to come up, and I've blessed you so many times." He said, "I would like you all, one by one, to come and to bless me." And wow, nobody could believe it. Who would ever do it? But he waited and he waited till people came up and gave him a blessing. And what a beautiful way to show that God is serving God. God is the doer. And every person came and blessed Swamiji. And I think at that moment, the energy of the whole community shifted, because people were in a taking mode. And then when he said, "You must give back, and in this way I want you to bless me too," I felt this is the divine serving the divine. And so in our lives, if we think of giving to God, giving to Guruji, giving to Swamiji, our efforts, our willingness, giving to all the friends, the Guru Bhais, our family, then in that way we grow. And we grow not in ego, but our soul grows in love and joy and devotion to God. God bless you all.